Cool.
We were struggling. And one of the things that was really important to us was food access, food affordability, and food justice, which is really where people get a say in what is grown in their community. We were concerned with sustainability, the distance our food travels. Our mission is to empower what we like to call a new local food system because we really wanted to engage a new way of farming. We were struggling farmers in the city during a time where it was so exciting to think that commercial farming in urban areas could be helped by hydroponics and vertical farming. Farming is very much so like restaurants. Very high capital costs and low profit margins. So we've turned this business into much more of a very low capital costs and a high profit margin business where a farmer or someone who's interested in engaging their local community through farming could have a really lucrative business for people, planet, and the profits, as we like to say.
You invented the farm amenity category. When did you realize this was a franchisable model?
I'm from a service industry. I had a wellness center in Montclair, New Jersey. I have a massage therapist background, and I used to do something similar to this with massage, where I would go into corporate offices. They would give me like a room off of their loading dock or something like that, and I would market massage therapy, like chair massage, to the people who worked in that building, essentially. And so when we were on top of this top, we were in that greenhouse in the Bronx, renting space, growing food for our customers, seeing that none of the food was going to the people who lived in the building, it sparked an idea of maybe developers can see the value in this and maybe that could work. So we actually got our first deal with a building in Brooklyn, New York they had actually, it was a developer who had taken an old brewery and turned it into a 900 unit mixed use building. Nobody was living in the building at the time at all, but they had us growing food in the farm because it was helping them rent and sell the units. So we quickly learned what was valuable to that market segment. And we're in multiple market segments. So we're selling not only to commercial developers, residential developers. We work with schools, nonprofit organizations, community centers, co-working spaces, and all of these different market segments actually have reasons and find value in having small gardens and farms on site in the form of an amenity. And yeah, we were really happy and early enough to coin the term farm amenity and garden amenity, so that kind of communicates exactly what we're doing for these communities is like, we're bringing value. Our weekly harvests are, our farmers tend to be the most popular members of each of the communities that we're in. They go in and they do a weekly harvest, package the food, and we follow because we are commercial farming background. We follow what are called GAP or good agricultural practices, which are some of the highest levels of food safety and organic practices. So we don't use any herbicides, any pesticides. This is fresh, like organically grown, nutrient dense, sustainable food. A lot of our customers have sustainability goals, corporate responsibility goals, things called ESGs that really, or some of them even want to meet certifications like LEED, well fit. So we're a B2B business. Tickets are very high ticket items. An average service can be about $33,000 for a farm that's about made of about 16 systems. We could have tickets that are like $65,000, $9,000. So there's a nice array of healthy, high ticket items where, a good business model. We don't have any storefronts or anything like that. So we keep it really lean. We work out of co-working spaces ourselves. It's really great. We're a community driven business. It's part of our culture and who we are. So we like to be a part of the community. And it's really kind of cool to actually work in where other businesses are. It helps with connections and networking and that kind of thing too, and really grow the business from all different organic ways. So we love it. Our customers pay us a full year in advance. So they pay us that $65,000 in one lump sum, that $9,000, that's $33,000 in one lump sum. It's wonderful for cash flow to get that chunk of money inserted into the company. And it's one of the reasons why we haven't had to take on any investors because the recurring revenue is the basis and what's brilliant about the model, honestly, if we can say so ourselves. And actually, because while we have multiple revenue streams and there is all this ancillary extra money flowing into the gross profits, you're actually you're looking to build that recurring revenue year after year, acquiring 2, 3 more, an extra $100,000. And then that's something that they've made that capital investment into having that farm or garden on site. Nobody gets rid of the pool once they invest in it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So they're going to keep having your service over and over again. We haven't had anybody cancel us for their customers, and it's differentiating them. Someone goes to see an apartment, say, for example, and they see 5 different apartments, rents are comparable, amenities are comparable, but one of them had a farm in the building. We've literally had somebody, a KPI, where someone moved across the street. You know what it costs to
Oh,
do those like
pain in the
startup
ass.
costs, the security deposits, all of that stuff, right? Moved across the street because their building didn't have a farm in it. They had all the same things. Their building just didn't have a farm in it. And it's, people are the demand for local food isn't going away. This is like a health. People see food as medicine and they're embracing that and they want to have it locally. They want their kids to grow up around food. They want people to be reconnected. They don't want kids to think carrots come from plastic bags.
How do you lead in a category with 0 national competitors?
So having 0 national competitors obviously is a differentiator for us. We didn't know we were franchising, but how we lead in that capacity is with cutting edge, kind of out of the box thinking that brought us here in the first place. We're looking to meet with people who are passionate about engaging their community in a local service business like Green Food Solutions, and are also seeing what we see and about how this can actually really transform something in a way people receive food locally. Each of the farms that we have, everyone is getting 1, 2, sometimes 3 bags of freshly harvested food every single week for free. None of our customers, most of our customers, don't sell the food. We have some co-working spaces that do sell the food, but even when they do, they charge half of what it would cost in a grocery store to buy that same hydroponically grown head of lettuce. So, and then they usually put it in a cool like salad bar setting where they're providing all like the fixings and the dressings and things like that. So it's like a lunch salad bar station. Again, a really nice value add amenity in the way that they implement their on-site farm and garden. So even though they are selling it, it's not their main revenue streams. It's just is a really great something they can give that attracts people to their business model. Um, the leadership that we're bringing, this out of the box thinking, is showing the actual franchisees that we're working with is how to do the same. Like we were approached a lot of times by people asking us, why don't we just go the route of, joint ventures or, growing the business, like being like the Walmart, if you will, like a privately owned family business and expand this locally. And franchising was mission aligned for us essentially. So like we didn't know we were going to franchise when we started this, but when it was explained to me what franchising was outside of like McDonald's and Subway, we were told that basically you're empowering other people already to start farms and gardens. We were actually in Kenya doing this with hospitality companies. They had a safari resort and we sold them the equipment. We installed it and we trained their team and how to grow food for their local on-site cafe in that resort. Why did we do this? I said food access and food affordability and food justice, which was our mission for actually going into farming. But one of the things that we really wanted to see when we started to develop this business model was that we think farmers deserve a better business model than commercial farming because it is a struggle. It is high capital costs and low profit margins. And we kind of developed something for people who are really passionate about their local food systems and want to be a part of that, whether they have a green thumb or not, because it's not required. Our systems and our business are really plug and play. You don't have to be a plumber. You don't have to be an electrician. We said if you could put a hose on a spigot, that's the extent of the knowledge you need to do. We'll train you in how to assemble and disassemble these systems and install them. And we even are actually with our franchisees for their very first installation and, available for other ones because it's really building that confidence. It's very plug and play. So we hold their hands and we don't just leave them after the training, even though that's a really comprehensive support system as well.
How do you create a culture where franchisees feel supported and empowered as pioneers?
So our culture is really important to us as a company. And how we do that is through the accountability that we have really been a foundation and a benchmark for us that has built trust with our customers. That same accountability that we have to our customers to show this business model, show up, bring our white glove service, we're doing that with our franchisees. So, like I said, our support is very unparalleled. It's kind of like our version of the white glove service that we bring in our business, but to our franchisees to really be there for them, to support them. We actually, when we were just supporting people starting farms, we would provide manuals. We have SOPs for everything, the opening procedures, closing procedures. So it was natural for us to be able to support someone in opening a green food solutions business. And we bring that level of support in showing them everything that they need to do while we're in the training. We ramp them up. Our culture is about being transformative, customer service excellence oriented, being accountable and friendly. So we believe not just in being transformative about the food system we're creating, but who we need to be for each other, for our franchisees, who we need to be for our growers, for our business managers. I'm a semi absentee business owner at this point. And while I was a grower initially, I've worked as I've acquired new locations, I hire. So, like training people how to run a business like that and turning that knowledge and information over in the form of the system that we've implemented it. So, people who are really just looking for that plug and play system and just want to, really produce the results, systematically, it is in our core values, and through how we provide that leadership, again through accountability, building that trust, transforming ourselves and our food system, putting our customer service excellence, white glove service first, and being friendly to not only our customers but each other.
Amazing. What does your ideal franchisee look like? Are there any sort of rhymes or rhythms to who these folks are?
We had gotten this was for a different purpose, but we had gotten a grant from the National Science Foundation to do a customer discovery. And most people who are looking to transition out of careers, particularly tech, finance, corporate business in some way, tend to be attracted to our work. They tend to have the business acumen needed to manage teams of people. I would say someone who, is qualified, quote unquote, is someone because you don't need to have that green thumb and you don't need to be that plumber. So being qualified is really more being someone who's going to actually enjoy a local service business, being that person who wants to, even if they're being a semi absentee owner, be involved in the management of their team and enjoy what their company is up to doing. I just got off a phone call with a prospect in Chicago, and little to no experience in farming, but very, very passionate about what's happening in the world around our food system and wants to be a part of something and knows they don't have the acumen or the interest or even the grit to be a commercial farmer. But this is a lean, easier plug and play business model that they actually communicated to me could be a legacy for their kids for so that to really build that up. And Chicago is a hot territory. We have pre-existing business in Manhattan and some local territories we're also working in. I don't know if I'm digressing. Stop me if I am, because that could happen. I do see that like there's a lot of different things that as we're emerging this interest, that we're happy to be able to roll out our business model the way that we're doing through franchising as opposed to some private joint venture or growth in that direction. It really is much more mission aligned.
That's great. How do you lead conversations with schools, developers, and community partners?
So we do provide scripts and PowerPoint presentations per market segment on all of this. And how we do that is so we have software that actually locates all the apartment buildings, co-working spaces, community centers, all of that in a given territory. So you'll have the addresses to go hit the ground running. Day one, you have to acquire obviously their contact information, reach out to them, put them in your pipeline, schedule your Zoom calls, lead those sales presentations. But that's the how of basically how we do this. And we do provide all of the training. Inside of our training, it's a 7-day training. 3 days of it is the agricultural operations, but the other side of it, we get really deep into, go over these scripts and things like that, and we do mock presentations with each other. We're also on those sales calls with you so that while you're learning the scripts, while you're getting yourself more comfortable but leading the sales presentations, we'll be on the first 3 sales calls with our franchisees so until they really feel comfortable leading it themselves. Our support doesn't go away after the training.
What's the biggest lesson learned transitioning from operator to franchisor?
Because we actually had this very similar experience of training other people and starting farms and gardens. Even though it wasn't franchising, they were starting a farm themselves, like some were through a resort, or some were a developer, or different types of, some were just commercial farms. Some were farmers who are like chefs who were growing like peppers to create a hot pepper sauce. There's a lot of different commercial ventures that we've supported in the sale of equipment and installing and training them. So I guess the transition here is really the sales side of it. Where we've been great at supporting people in agricultural operations and systems maintenance and showing them how to grow food and do this productively in these small distributed farm ways. Now we're training people in the whole sales side of the business. So like that's been a fun journey for me to actually, like I was sharing before, like I love in franchising that like people are much more collaborative in my experience compared to vertical farming, where things are such more like, now I can like share the business, and it's great. I like that it's like regulated by the fact that you have to have this 200-page document, and you can't throw smoke up someone's butt. Like you actually have to tell them your numbers, or be, transparent about things, that, as transparent as the food system we would like to see. I like the fact that there's a viable business model. I don't know if you know much about vertical farming industry, but a lot of those business models, a lot of those commercial farms, they all went bankrupt. Like, I mean, I'm talking Germany, United States. There were companies named Aero Farms, Bowery, Infarm, so many different huge, they got millions of dollars of investment. And first time in the world, I felt bad for investors, because they were like, they were investing in all of this, I guess, maybe IP or technology. But at the end of the day, the value proposition was lettuce and arugula. So it wasn't what a lot of people thought that was going to be. And what I saw, while a lot of businesses were failing and there was that happening, what I saw was, this isn't going to help the food system we need to see. People investing in things that are failing, getting jaded to investing in farming. Is it going to work? Isn't it going to work? This isn't going to help things. I come from a service industry. You only do what you know. So I knew how to create a viable service business around farming that would be lean and profitable for people if that were their interest.
What misconception do people have about urban farming that you enjoy correcting?
Profitability, access, affordability, food justice.
Yeah.
I would say those things honestly.
Cool. What early mistake forced you to redesign your business model?
We were failing as a commercial farm. As I was sharing before, we were jumping around. We were in shipping containers, then in 10,000 square foot greenhouses. The farms we were renting from were struggling. I had a successful wellness center in Montclair, New Jersey. I had done an amenity kind of model. We were on a top of an apartment building, and none of the food was going to the people in the building. And I was like, wouldn't this be cool in corporate offices? Would it? And it's kind of funny, because my business partner, who comes more from the hydroponic side of things, I came more from the marketing and the sales. um, you know, it took me some convincing, because there was this real commitment to making commercial farming work. And I was just like, I was more of a fail fast kind of mentality. And I was just like, let's pivot. Like, this is not working. I don't know if that directly or indirectly answers the question, but that was kind of where we just decided that I know service industry. I can monetize this as a service idea. We just have to make sure it works in the market segments we're looking to sell it in. And then after our research and development that we did with that first developer, and then we were in schools, and we've done pilots with correctional facilities, hospitals. So there's multiple market segments that get value out of having this on site. Now we just locate all the hospitals and areas, all the apartment buildings, all the schools, and kind of do our work to outreach to them and get a percentage of that market. It's a very abundant business, with very few buildings and service
Mhm.
contracts.
What's something you wish you knew before awarding your first franchise?
We're about to close our first franchisee, and I'm wondering what it's going to look like in 5 years. This person's awesome. Like, they definitely have the business acumen. I mean, we're getting along like really well. Like, I like this person genuinely, as a human being. I like brand aligned 100%. And I really think that they're going to take it places. Their territory even has better metrics than our territory, more buildings and things like that, more community centers. So as we're really building this, I guess you never know what's going to happen. Relationships change and things happen. And this is a 10-year agreement. I like just would love to, I guess, know what 5 years down the line looks like. And I guess you
Mhm.
just never do with
Mm.
anyone and that's This would be my first experience with a franchisee or a business relationship of a contract of 10 years with anyone. I like this concept of putting skin in the game and being in a relationship like that with someone. I've always been a relationship oriented person. And I think it's cool to like build a business with someone and share a business we've built, with other people who can do the same.
All right. On to insights for franchisees. Advice for franchisees who want purpose and profitability.
Be a go-getter. Go out there, hit the ground running. We're going to set you up with all of the addresses for like I would say 90% of the market segments. Some of our software can't provide it for the number of corporate offices that are in your territory, say for example, but like all the schools, all the apartment buildings. So we're going to show you like 200 buildings or 300 or 400 buildings that you could just go outreach to and set up your calls, work the system. Like we're going to train you in exactly how to run these through your pipeline, how to close them, what to say, how to fulfill upon it, to do the next steps, bring them through your pipeline. And, you're going to close your deals. So get out of that ROI, like with your first two farm amenity services. But how you're going to do that is go and do your outreach. So that person who's really interested in just like being that leader in their local community, go talk to all the business owners in your local community and the specific ones we have you target. And, that's what I would say because there's no way they're not going to kill it.
Is this going door to door or is this more so making calls?
Combo. So we do what we call around town marketing, and that is going around to walking into an apartment building with your package of marketing materials and asking to speak to either the property manager or the the building owner information, and you drop off your packet. And there's ways in which and strategies we have around like getting it to that person, the decision maker. We've had really great success with that where people love that local community touch. There's people in the offices usually that talk to you that day. And then they give you your business card. Now you can like reach out to them and sometimes getting your foot in the door with a workshop that we hold versus jumping in right with the farm amenity or a garden amenity. So sometimes as you're working with them on that process, there's other business you can have with them as well.
What's the minimum square footage you need to have one of these?
Some people have done as small as 200 square feet, and some people do like 1,000 or 2,000 square feet. So, but that would usually be the range. We don't really recommend large farms. And based on the size, how many units they have in their building, I guess formulas in a sense of how we make recommendations. But an average size farm is about 10 to 16 systems. Some of our farms have 20 or 30 systems, and some of them have like two or three systems. So a farm or a garden is really just distinguished by the automated irrigation. So if it's a farm, it's going to have automated irrigation where those individual reservoirs are getting automatically filled through the automated irrigation system. But in a garden, you're what's it called manually filling the reservoirs during your weekly service visits. So that actually entails more labor. So you're actually getting paid more for your service visits as a garden amenity than you are a farm amenity because of some of that automation.
How do annual prepay contracts that you guys get support franchisee cash flow?
Well, essentially, because they're getting paid for a full year in advance. So at the end of the day, your farm amenity, your customer is buying the equipment from you, they're paying you to install it. And they're also buying all the supplies for an entire year that you will need to run your service. So your real expense is labor. So it's really lean having that cash flow to budget yourself across the year if you choose to structure it that way and actually get paid full year in advance. But I'd like to point that out that we do that, have done that since 2017, and we haven't been challenged on it yet. And that's because it is that much in demand.
And is that your employees? Are those 10 W-2s?
We usually have our growers on for about a year before we bring them onto salary. Again, like our growers make about $25 to $30 an hour. They love working with us. They enjoy working with the communities that they're in. They are some of the most popular people in those communities. It's a great feeling to go to work, do what you do, provide the food to people. But then like sometimes those residents actually bring down soups that they've made with the kale or feed the farmers and stuff like that. So it's really fun. But and then we have some farmers that actually end up managing teams of other farmers. And it's interesting because as I was sharing with you that in vertical farming, a lot of these commercial farms have failed. there's this whole workforce of people looking for jobs that are interested, palpably so. And there's even universities and colleges that have sustainability programs, food system programs, and hydroponic programs where there's not jobs for people. So there's this whole workforce that is investing in education around this and the industry of farming. Most of them have to move to Canada, honestly, right now. I've known a couple of people who worked at some of the companies I mentioned, and they're moving to get jobs in greenhouses because Canada and California have most of the greenhouses that grow most of our lettuce and stuff
Didn't
like that.
didn't know that, but it makes sense about Canada. It's so damn cold up there. Big
Access to geothermal activity too, which is pretty cool from an energy conserving perspective.
Okay. And then how big are the teams, like, fully scaled up?
So we have 5 staff members, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're 6 now. So we have 6 on our team, small but mighty. We have 2 growers, a business manager, a bookkeeper, and a marketing social media person that we're working with right now. So, and then I've been putting most of my concentrations now in building the franchise and working with our franchisees to really help them succeed as they build their businesses.
And you speak about this business as as semi-absentee, but what about owner-operator?
100%. Like that part's a no-brainer. Like owner operator is definitely a prime candidate, and semi-absentee is the pathway. Like so, like we started off as owner operator, actually doing the farming ourselves, and then as we acquired two, so like an average service visit is about 2 to 7 hours. So if you have like a farm or garden with like 2 or 3 systems, that might be 2 hours. But if you have about like 20 to 30 systems, that might be a 7-hour visit. So if you're going in 1 day a week, you could figure about 3 to 4 locations are going to be a part-time job, a 3-day a week job for someone. If you have about 5 to 6 locations, now that's going to be a full-time job. So when we had 2 locations, we hired somebody part-time and then started just focusing on the sales and marketing ourselves. So ideally, that's the person who's willing to put the boots in the ground kind of thing and like actually be a part of that. But I'm talking to people like our first franchisee actually is willing to um hire a business manager that will train in our initial training and hire the growers that for an additional fee. I think it's $500 per day per staff member that will also train them to be a part of their business day one. So she actually is going to do all the outreach, speak to the developers, and then send that business to her business manager to really kind of fulfill upon it, do the proposals and the site visits and all of that, and then process the orders and manage the team of growers and their schedules and all of that while she'll run payroll. So there's that semi absentee that's happening from day one in the way that she's building that business model and her business acumen, who she is, the background she has and where she comes from, she can handle that. So it really depends case by case on who that person is and what they would or wouldn't be able to manage based on what experience they had in management prior to opening their Green Food Solutions.
All right, let's transition to Mary the human. What's a moment that reminded you why you do this work?
So there's this guy, Ron, and I was at the farms the other day. He's a senior who lives in one of the buildings that we have a farm in. His wife died. His daughter died. His son and his daughter-in-law live in a building in Jersey City, and he also has an apartment there too, which has a pretty cool way of retirement. Instead of like a 55 or older community, just have an apartment in the same building with your kids, so you can live separately. And they have all the amenities. He's there every Friday. He obviously lives in the building. Many of the residents like to seed with us, harvest with us. He pretty much thinks of that farm as his own. And so when we wanted to connect people back to their food system, I had no idea that it was going to be more fulfilling for them than I had imagined about just access to food, access to uh, being someone who advocates for sustainability, this enrichment level of what he is actually getting out of having that farm on site where he lives. Our dad loves being here. He's so happy. Ever since he lost his wife, he they used to have a garden together in their house. They used to have a house in the suburbs and things like that. And they downsized and moved into this building with their kids. And So there's things like that that remind me of like, wow, how cool is it if like everywhere people lived and everywhere people worked had access to a farm, and what are these fun things that I'm not going to know that gets produced from that?
That's amazing.
Probably that kind of stuff. I also like honestly seeing that developers work with each other. I love like how things work. And this probably isn't like what people are expecting me to say or anything like that. It's not promotional or anything like that in any way, but I actually like to see how industries work. And I love that seeing how farming can incorporate in so many different businesses and how it doesn't have them veer out of the way that they do business already. It doesn't have them throw the wrench in their systems. You know, most of these businesses are already working with third party organizations, outsourcing something or the other. So we're just that third party organization bringing value or solving a problem or bringing that in. So I like to see how this integrates really well with the built environment and how things are already functioning.
What would you tell someone feeling pulled toward purpose-driven work?
Do something that makes a difference. I mean, I've always had this little sign on my refrigerator, like, do big things, make a difference. And it's just like, that's one of the things I kept saying to myself when I was building the franchise, not knowing what it was or like what I was really getting myself into, just really trusting that this was about supporting people starting businesses of my own. And that regardless of all the consultants and the legal and things that I was working in and that was new to me, that getting that focus inside of that. So I would say just really like share from your heart. It builds trust. We build so much trust. Not ever having started a farm amenity before, I was able to look a developer in the eye and say, he looked at me and he was like, "Is this going to be cool? Is this going to help my business?" Like, and I was like, rent and sell units. And I was like, absolutely. This is a cutting edge amenity that is going to set you apart. We were right. So you just believe in yourself, believe in what you're investing into and go for it.
Is that
Yeah.
purpose-driven mentality a necessity for your ideal client profile?
I think it's an ideal necessity for anyone who wants to own a business of their own. Like you have to want to do what it takes to run the business and be resourceful enough to say like, okay, like if it's not going in a direction, like how to pivot or lean on the system, in this case of franchising, which is really cool to say like, how do I get it in the right direction if you are veering? So I think it is a skill that's needed. Absolutely.
All right, on to the future of franchising. How do sustainability, B2B growth, and government incentives fuel your model?
So B2B really affords us the ability to have high ticket items, not need a volume of business to create a nice nest egg of business. So we have about 13 locations. Like I shared, some of our ticket items are $33,000, things like that. So that I would say speak to the B2B side of things versus B2C, where you just need much more volume of sales. It would just be a whole other different beast. And then we do get some element of B2C in our B2B model. So like a residential building who has like is getting a couple of bags of free lettuce each week, has a house upstate, or would like a system in their apartment to grow extra food. So there's things like that that happen as well, where we do get tapped into the B2C a little bit. From a government side of things, programs like that. So I have seen that SBA loans that can go towards small business farms. We work with a lot of nonprofit organizations. They get grants all the time to put these farms and gardens on site and things like that. So working with our customer base, particularly the nonprofit organizations, they've shown us that the way in which we break down what their costs are for their farms for everything they'll need for a year, and the way that we give them our service fees and the equipment, that all helps them aggregate what those budgets are needed in those grants, and it helps them get those grants consistently. A lot of programs have been run on volunteers, and it doesn't help them land the grant the next year. So a lot of the ways that we've been able to provide that comprehension has been giving them access to those types of things. We don't work directly with the grants or the applying for the grants and things like that, but we do know that our customers are getting access to those by how we're presenting our information to them, which is really cool to know that we can contribute to that for them.
Mhm.
And then you asked about B2B government. Was there something else am I missing in that question?
Sustainability.
So sustainability, ESGs, so like corporate responsibility or sustainability goals that many companies have. Some of our largest developers that are publicly traded that we work with, they are doing this and they're rolling it out throughout many properties in their portfolios because they have these goals. It helps them with their board of directors. So on each of our farms, we actually have these data dashboards that we give templates to for our franchisees and show them how to work within them. And we collect data. So with the yields that we do on each of the farms, what we're growing, how much we're growing. And quarterly, we'll send those stats to our customers, particularly these publicly traded companies with board of directors. They love it. Because then it's like, oh, we're meeting our sustainability goals. It actually helps them get points and check off some of the boxes they need to check off for their goals. So it's really great, actually. And these are those benefits that we've learned of why this does work with the multiple market segments, why it's valuable to them, like what's in it for them, essentially.
How does farming as a service fit into an AI and automation driven economy?
So, in a green food solutions business, one of the things that we do pride ourselves on is that we show people that many people have thought vertical farms are very expensive or high tech. We find this balance between using the technology and automation that really serves us and finds that nice space of creating a manageable service that's both affordable and manageable from a service perspective, but then also realizing that plumbing has existed for centuries and many of this technology is sometimes overdone. When we were in our shipping containers, we actually, some of the trainings we led to people was how things were too high tech and it was completely unnecessary. Like some of the sensors, and it was really overdone and it was breaking the unit economics of commercial viability, quite frankly. So that's really from the commercial perspective, well, people went way too high tech. And there are certain things you need to manage and measure, but finding that balance. So we are managing our pH and our nutrient levels, what are called your EC levels, and temperature. So, air quality and water quality are the most important things for the environment of your plant. So we maintain that, we automate that. We have timers for the lights to go on and off. So which is what has us only have to be there 1 day a week. And that makes our services manageable. So we can take on more and more of these contracts. And it also makes our clients' budgets happier, so they don't need you to come in every single day to do the farming, which is what would be needed if you had to water things every day and things like that. So the automation really plays a role in how this business model is workable, both for our customers and us.
Where can listeners find you?
So our website is greenfoodsolutions.com. You can also find us on Instagram. You can find me, Mary Weatherill, at LinkedIn. You can also email me, mary@greenfoodsolutions.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey and vision. And to
Thank you for
everyone
having me.
listening, can find Mary at greenfoodsolutions.com or LinkedIn or Instagram. Subscribe for more episodes of the Corporate Refugee podcast where freedom follows structure. Thank you
Uh,
so much.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate your time and having me on the show.